I've begun recording. And Kirk, how many do we have, my friend?
I believe we had there's 22.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and start, and others can join as they come in. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Rob Robinson. I'm the Long Range Planning Manager for the City of Gaithersburg. I want to thank you for attending this public forum on the Lake Forest Mall Master Plan. A few things to discuss before we begin. This meeting, because we are in a formal comment period, is being recorded. The purpose for this recording, and really the purpose of this meeting, is to allow the public to provide some testimony to the mayor and council and the planning commission in preparation for the upcoming joint public hearing on June 7th. The structure for today, I'll be giving a presentation that provides a broad overview of the master plan itself. It's not meant to supplant the master plan. There's a lot more in that, so I would encourage you to read it, but to give you an overview. While I'm giving the presentation, we would ask you guys use the chat function. Any questions you have, please put it in the chat. We'll be collecting those following the presentation. We're going to try to get through as many questions as we can that are asked. Following the question period is when we'll be doing testimony. At that point, I'll be turning it over to Kirk Eby. You guys will use your raise your hand function, and one at a time as time allots, because we only have 2 hours, we'll be unmuting you, and you have 3 minutes to offer whatever testimony you feel like offering. So that's part of the reason why we really want to encourage you to use the chat function for questions, so you don't burn your 3 minutes. And let's get started so we don't waste much more time. So to begin, what is a master plan? This is a basic question just to provide some background understanding. Here in the state of Maryland, the comprehensive or master plan is composed of various elements such as land use, transportation, and sensitive areas to serve the general purpose of guiding and accomplishing the coordinated, adjusted, and harmonious development of the local jurisdiction. What is important is that last line. This is required by the state of Maryland, and the master plan is to look at it from a city perspective. We don't really write master plans to benefit any particular stakeholder group, owner, or developer. It's really what is the coordinated use within the city. At a minimum, the land use element establishes the zoning and permitted land use should redevelopment occur. And that's an important point because, again, master plans in and of themselves do not make redevelopment happen. The goal is hopefully that you do a plan that encourages redevelopment through what it sort of allows. So I think the main takeaway with this is property owners can reuse existing buildings and the mall can stay a mall in perpetuity. However, the uses must comply with the current zoning and subdivision. So when does a master plan, we often have the question, come into play? Master plans come into play with a rezoning application or a re-subdivision application. So the plan itself, its foundation, real fast to begin on the side, as has been mentioned before, it's divided into 8 parcels amongst 5 individual landowners. The total land area is 102 acres. Many of you are aware there's some ponds there, regional stormwater ponds. They eat up approximately 15.5 acres, which really is leaving almost 86.5 acres for development. And that's really the area the master plan is focusing on. This master plan reflects the input that's derived from technical studies, such as our data analysis in the county's retail study, data sets such as census data and American Community Survey data, 14 focus group meetings, and some of you may have participated in some of those. We also did 2 surveys, 1 mailed and 1 online, and 4 public forums. And again, some of you may have participated in those public forums. Just to reiterate, again, a difference between today, this meeting and those forums, we're not really doing a dialogue today. It's really to present facts, answer technical questions about the content of the plan, and then allow you to offer testimony to the Council and Planning Commission. Finally, this plan was developed from 2 work sessions with the Mayor and City Council and the Planning Commission. So where are we? The draft plan was released for the formal required 60 days of public comment on March 19th. And as I mentioned, the joint public hearing in which testimony will again be taken during that public hearing is scheduled for June 7th, 2021. So the plan itself is laid out into 9 sections. Sections 4 through 9 include a narrative discussing the topic, recommendations, and any special conditions. I'd like to take a moment to explain the difference between a master plan recommendation and a master plan special condition. The way the land use article at the state level is set up is development should comply with the recommendation. So there's a little bit of gray area, whereas special conditions require strict adherence. And that's why these are subject to a concurrent but separate public hearing. So oftentimes when you'll see the legal ads for this, it'll see MP1-21 and MP2-22. So that is a consolidated joint public hearing for both the master plan element and the special conditions contained therein. So plan sections 1 through 3 will just fly through. Section 1 is the introduction. It establishes the purpose of the plan and the physical context of the plan area. Section 2 is terms and definitions. And just as it's self-explanatory, but it's really defining, some language that's maybe not found in our zoning ordinance or subdivision ordinance, but is applicable to some of the concepts expressed in the master plan, such as missing middle or housing affordability. Some of the definitions, we took from, sort of technical sources. Other ones, we created the definition to better express what we're trying to convey. The last section, number 3, is existing conditions and context. And this includes a summary of a lot of the key points, the data analysis, such as economic and population growth, surrounding land use, and surrounding demographics. Again, this is a summary. It is not every bit of all the analysis. So the first section of the quote unquote plan is the vision framework. And again, the purpose is to communicate the long-term big picture and provide the basis for the goals and recommendations in other sections. So this really lays out the framework. All the subsequent sections are all working towards trying to fulfill this framework. It reflects the priorities established through the public outreach, the research, the city policies and goals, and sound planning principles. One of the main things that you're going to see in this master plan is we're trying to modernize the term mixed use. You hear that a lot here in the city of Gaithersburg, going back to Kentlands or Crown, things like that. But this new mixed use, we really want to bring into the 2020s, where we emphasize that amenities and green spaces are really important, that commercial uses mean more than just retail and office, that, housing should be more than just, towns or apartments, and that there'd be really multimodal options that go from everything from BRT to scooters, along with the single occupancy vehicle. So the vision framework, the actual recommendations, there's a lot of stuff on here. I'm not going to read it all for the essence of time, but in a sense, they really recommend a sense of place, the importance of connectivity, the mix of uses, the mixture, that mixed use can be at the project scale and doesn't have to be reflected in every single building. So you don't need to have, multiple uses in each building, and the importance of the green network. What is important, as I sort of mentioned, the base requirement of the land use element is the zoning recommendation. So we are recommending that the Lake Forest Mall parcels be rezoned from C2 to MXD. MXD is mixed use development, C2 is general commercial. So mixed use development is the zone in the city that's going to be able to facilitate all the subsequent recommendations you're going to be discussing. So the next section following the vision framework is the amenities. And I think as many are aware, as we've experienced over this last year of the pandemic, amenity space is important for enhancing the quality of life and facilitating diversity. And in this plan, it discusses 3 main facets: green and open space, civic use buildings and centers. And what we mean by civic use buildings isn't necessarily government-owned buildings. It's a building that contains a use that benefits the greater community. So this can be everything from a gallery to a training center to an arena to a bunch of stuff. So this, just to be upfront, this master plan does not weigh in on what is the most appropriate. It just acknowledges that for a sustainable community, these type of uses and buildings are important. The last section addressed in this is the importance of connectivity and green networks. So with the recommendations, again, it stresses variety, accessibility for various ages, physical abilities, the works. It talks about how the stormwater pond should be integrated into the greater development and not just something, looked at on the perimeter, but brought in as an actual amenity. It talks about as we've mainly seen over this last year, the importance of the pedestrian realm, that we should have more than just, 4-foot wide sidewalks. Outdoor seating is something that is important. This is a place for gathering when you weren't able to do it inside. Again, the importance of incorporating a civic use, and that in short, all of this should sort of be thought about holistically and connected through some sort of green network. So the first special condition, which I had mentioned, is subject to a separate public hearing and requires straight adherence, says the overall minimum of 35% for the 102 acres as defined in the MXD zone. And what does that really equate to? Well, 15 acres is, taken up just including the ponds. And then through analysis, 9 acres is probably going to be taken up on, people's front yards, grass strips, right of way, the tree panels and roads, things like that. So what we're really talking about is for the 86 acres, that there be 11 acres for other open spaces. We are not calling for a central park, one giant 11-acre park. So again, it affords flexibility, but it's going to create what we heard from a lot of people during the data gathering thing, that these open spaces are important. Just a quick minute with this, what I should have mentioned earlier, this master plan isn't a design plan. What this master plan really does is, through all the stuff that we have gone through, and you can see on the project page, defines the what, sometimes the how, but does not lay out the where these things are to occur. So when you hear things like 11 acres, keep that in mind. We're not saying where it's to be done or even how it's to be done, but that we want realistically 11 acres of open space. So the next section is transportation. The 4 main takeaways from this section is design a grid street network, the importance of improving internal and external connectivity to the surrounding areas, enhance the existing transit center, and encourage, bicycle and pedestrian connectivity and safety, micromobility, and discourage large surface parking lots. So with these recommendations, they basically, in many ways, just restate that, encouraging the bike ped, the micromobility, which is like the scooters that you see in bike share. It recommends, exploring potentially connecting Lake Forest Boulevard with Contour Road. It seems like a logical connection that you could sort of develop off of through the center. It acknowledges the importance of the transit center. And while it says, we should explore potentially moving it and making it, better incorporated into the design, regardless, even if it stays where it is, it really should be enhanced and be more than just an uncovered bus shelter. And that, we should be striving for structured parking and new parking strategies. And this includes things like curbside pickup, ride share spaces, things like that, things that we've seen really come to the fore over the last year. Moving on to the next section is residential. The main takeaway with this plan is that it's the acknowledgement that residential is an essential component, but it's not the primary developer of development. The goal of this master plan is not to create a residential dominant bedroom community, but it's the acknowledgement that we need residential. So really what it's saying is we should see variety, housing options for young professionals, families with children, and older adults. Housing affordability, and we don't mean affordable housing, which is regulated. When we talk about housing affordability, we mean let's provide a broader range of for sale prices and rents than is typically found, so we can address multiple facets. Where people are in their life cycle. Let's provide housing that they can afford to stay here. And density, supporting future population growth while encouraging both rental and ownership opportunities. So with the recommendations, the base ones build off that, creative housing with a broader range of affordability, that the housing must include amenity and open space plans, We discussed some design standards within the body of the document, so the recommendation is to follow those design standards. And we do acknowledge that, these may have an impact on public schools. We've seen some comments in the record that people say, hey, you didn't plan for a public school. Right now, there is no need for one. But what we've said is public schools must be monitored, and if needed, a design plan should then incorporate an applicable school site for a future elementary or middle school. So while we're not upfront saying you have to put aside land for a elementary or middle school, we are acknowledging that as development occurs, if that's needed, any developer should be prepared to do that. So the next set of special conditions, as we talked about, again, subject to a separate public hearing, is establish a residential unit cap of 1,600 units with the following breakdown. So up to 7% or approximately 116 can be townhomes. 20 to 30% can be missing middle. And if you go through the materials, you'll see missing middle is like 2/2s, triplexes, bungalow courts, duplexes. It's unique housing types that aren't typically found in the city, but sort of fill that gap between typical garden style apartments and single family homes. And then there's, of course, multifamily. Rental and owned is the predominant land form. And our studies and projections show, this is what's most needed to meet our targets. We do specifically state that single family detached homes sited on individual lots are prohibited. Essentially, why we say that is even the smallest single family home, the amount of land it takes up, when you think about what I said, that we only have 86 acres to work with, if you begin doing lots of single family homes, it's going to eat up a lot of space with yards and with the associated roads. And it's really not going to leave a lot of other room for other development. The last special condition we have related to residential is the inclusion of townhomes less than 20 feet in width require 0.75 on-street parking spaces per unit within the same block. This is a livability issue. So a 20-foot wide townhome for those has really 4 parking spaces, 2 in the garage and 2 in the driveway. The concern begins when you begin dropping down with that, you begin to cut that number in half. And let's be honest, while we want people to walk and bike and take buses, this area still predominantly drives cars, and cars are needed. So if you begin doing smaller townhomes with families that in this area typically have 2 or more cars, where are they going to park them? Or where are, all the deliveries, the Uber Eats and everybody's supposed to come to drop stuff off? Or if you have family or friends come over and visit, where are they supposed to park? This condition is meant to sort of make sure we can sort of accommodate parking within the same block, and we're not forcing people to park in other areas, which may cause other issues for other blocks. So moving on to the commercial, as I mentioned in the beginning with uses, we're really looking to include a broader spectrum of commercial uses than mainly retail. Biotech, integrated light manufacturing, entertainment and experiential. All of these things we want to see brought into this site. As to retail, we're not opposed to retail. We just think, and it's shown in the retail study, that neighborhood goods and services or restaurants are really preferred over what's called GAFO. And these are your big, like shoe stores, furniture stores, things like that. One thing I like to make note to everyone, as we're looking at this, within a half mile of the mall, and not including the mall, is 1.2 million square feet of retail space. So there's already a lot around. And if you're like me, a lot of people do online shopping now, or their shopping's different. So we want to make sure that whatever we bring in, sort of is meeting the targets and the way people are operating now. Employment, we found this very, this was a big topic that came up through the focus groups and the surveys. We want to include commercial uses that provide a diversity of wage scales and career growth opportunities. This sort of goes hand in hand with increasing the amount of uses there. Let's be honest, if you mainly just predominantly do retail, you're mainly going to have minimum wage jobs. And even with housing affordability, as we've seen, it's very hard to have a living wage at that and be able to live where you work. So by diversifying the commercial uses, we also diversify job opportunity and wages and help better create a sustainable community. So with the MEC recommendations, much like with the residential, we do talk about some broad, high-level design standards that should be followed. We clearly say there is no square footage or acreage cap on retail spaces when they're included in a vertical mixed-use development. dedicated surface parking lots, are discouraged and should be limited. And again, that we're emphasizing the neighborhood goods and services, including restaurants, more so than the broader GAFO type things. As to special conditions, standalone or solely retail facilities are limited to a maximum of 5 acres total, including surface parking lots across the entirety of the redevelopment. And that standalone retail or solely retail building footprints must not exceed 30,000 square foot each. So to put it in layman's terms, what these conditions are really saying is we are not against big box stores, as some people have put in the comments. We are not trying to downplay stuff. We just don't want the suburban model. As we often point out, 20-some, 30-some years ago at Washingtonian Rio, we made Target build the first two-story Target with structured parking. And that's what we're looking for here. We want to maximize the use of land. We don't need giant footprint, one-story buildings with large seas of surface parking here. We want to be able to facilitate all these other goals. And lastly, with the special condition are obviously uses that we feel, just because of their nature, really don't work towards the plan's greater vision of densifying and other uses. And this includes, filling stations, car sales lots, warehousing, that these really aren't bringing in jobs. They eat up lots of square footage. So we just feel they're better just not to allow. So the last section of the master plan itself is the post-master plan. And we did this because we want to acknowledge, this is going to be a difficult site. As we mentioned, there's 5 individual owners. So we do want to acknowledge that, cohesive development under a single plan is preferred. One developer, we would love that, but we have to be honest with ourselves that there's a chance that may not happen, and it may happen, development may happen in phases. So one of the things we want to acknowledge once again is that the existing C2 uses are allowed, and they can continue. As we mentioned, master plans don't require redevelopment. But if people need to continue operating in order to build out in phases, in order to build up money to finance stuff, we should be supporting that. And we're good with that as long as what they want to do doesn't, detract from nor prevent that ultimate vision that we had talked about in the 4th section. So all development phases should incorporate more than one aspect of mixed use. So really what we mean by that is when you bring in something, show us, the amenities or the green space or how you're going to build out the transportation network with that. Don't just bring us in, a single building with how you're going to park it. So with the recommendations, we want to write in there that we will help facilitate communication and coordination amongst the mall sign owners to encourage that single holistic development. But going once again, the goal of the master plan is to write for what is in the best interest of the city. We acknowledge the potential need for interim uses, and we have to be flexible in their review. We don't support comprehensive rezoning. So if this master plan gets developed, we want to keep stuff C2 because that is a more flexible zone for interim conditions. It doesn't have as much bureaucracy. There's not as many restrictions as once you go MXD. So we really want to save that MXD for when somebody's really ready to implement the master plan. And with that, the first phase, if it is a phased implementation, has to incorporate a minimum of 10 acres exclusive of the pond areas. So, we want to see, 1/8 of that site come in as the first real plan so we can get a real sense of the direction the overall development's going to go. And again, any interim uses or phases shouldn't present the realization of the plan's vision. And lastly, the city will, in 10 years from adoption, perform an assessment regarding the success or failure in implementing the plan's recommendations. This is important because, again, things can take time, but as we heard from a lot of people, they don't want to wait 20, 30 years to see the first thing go in the ground. So we feel, 10 years, let's see where we are, and then we can pivot. Remember, master plans can be amended. The Lake Forest Mall currently has a master plan recommendation. This is, superseding that and redoing it. So it can be done. And this is being done about 10 years after the last one was done. So this is why we felt that was somewhat realistic. So where are we and where are we going? Again, we talked about we're in the 60-day comment period right now. June 7th is the joint public hearing. The thing to note is after the public hearing, that's when we'll be revising the plan. Staff does not unilaterally change the plan that you see before you now. Any changes are going to be at the direction of the council and the Planning Commission. And that's why it's important that we do efforts like this, where they get the ability to hear from you, the public, in their deliberations. So, writing in comments, recording these meetings, that's really why we're doing this. It's really not for staff. It's more to help Council and Planning Commission in their assessment of the plan. In July, the Planning Commission will give its approval. In the state of Maryland, the Planning Commission actually approves the plan. What they do is they approve the plan and then recommend adoption by the council. So in August, we're hoping to go to the council. There is a moratorium that expires the 17th. I think we're scheduled to go to the council for adoption August 16th. And the council at that point adopts the plan, which then puts things into play. So again, before we begin going to the question section, and hopefully, you guys have put some stuff in the chat box. We want you to stay engaged. If you weren't aware already, we do have a project page that we began last fall, almost last September. Lake Forest Master Plan. This has everything on it. It has the draft plan. It has real-time updates of all the current comments. It has all the background information that we had talked about that led to the development of this plan. It has summations of all the focus groups. You can see the results of the surveys. You can watch videos that occurred before. So this is really your one-stop shop if you're interested in really doing a deeper dive into the master plan. We want you to submit comments or questions about the plan. We have a unique email address, lakeforestmp@gaithersburgmd.gov. Given this time where we're still, only by appointment or not open or people are remote working, this is the best way to send us stuff. Is there. We still accept, written comments by snail mail and opportunities such as this and during the public hearing that'll allow you to do 3 minutes of testimony in person. But keep that lakeforestmp@gaithersburgmd.gov in the back of your mind. One thing to note, we will continue receiving comments all the way up till the respective records close. However, if, outside of today, if you want testimony or comments included in the public hearing packet for consideration by the council and the Planning Commission, they need to be received by May 21st. That doesn't mean that if we get something May 25th or May 29th, we're going to ignore it. It just won't be included in the materials for the public hearing on June 7th. So again, I would encourage you to get stuff in by the 21st. Use the Lake Forest MP at gaithersburgmd.gov. And with that, seeing we're about almost a half hour into our meeting, Laura, do we have any questions?
We just received one question, Rob, about what you were just talking about. Since the testimony will be at the end of the time available for this meeting, will the written testimony that was submitted to council and planning be considered if we are not called upon to speak?
Yes, that's one of the things I was going to say. We're very happy that, 20, 30 of you are attending this. So we will give you 3 minutes, and much as the mayor says during council meetings, if you have more than 3 minutes, send us the stuff. Get it to us by the 21st. It'll be recorded. You'll actually see it on the project page, your comments there, because we PDF them, sticker them, record them, put them in the index of memoranda. So please do not feel that today, in the 3 minutes today is your only opportunity. You can write more. Again, there'll be in-person testimony during the joint public hearing. So I hope that answers the question. Laura, do we have anything else?
Another question just came in. Who are the 5 developers?
Well, there's not 5 developers. There's 5 individual owners. And the way it works, many of you have heard of WRS, who owns the core. So that's the enclosed mall where the food court is. And each of the 4 anchors are individual owners. So Macy's is an owner. JCPenney is an owner. The former Sears site and the former Lord & Taylor site are also individual owners. But, right now, yes, we've been in touch with them. I just don't know off the top of my head the names of the LLCs.
And those are all the questions we have so far.
Well, it's only 3 o'clock, so I'll give it another couple of minutes. I know I threw a lot of stuff at you folks, but if you have any other questions, please enter them into the chat box. Again, I don't want you to have to take away testimony time asking questions when we can sort of go through this and give you more time to speak. No other questions?
Not that I'm seeing.
maybe we can do, let's go then. I'm going to turn it over to Kirk Eby, and he's going to show you a video. Again, the way this is going to work is you're going to use the raise your hand function. Kirk's going to unmute you. Then you're going to see on the screen a 3-minute timer, and you can offer your testimony. And if we get through stuff and we still have some time left before 4:30, we can come back and look to see if there have been any additional questions.
Rob, we just got one more question. Do you want to do it real quick?
Sure.
All right. How does a developer approach the city?
So what a developer will do is, whoever it may be, one person, multiple groups, whatever, they will put together a plan, which is with the MXD is called a sketch plan. And it's sort of a bubble plan. And it's going to come in, and the findings, one of the findings for approval is, hey, does this comply with the master plan? So again, we are hoping that it'll be one ownership group, but we've done enough other master plans with large developments where it's multiple ownership groups and comes in with phases, and each one submits its own separate sketch plan application for rezoning and development.
And another question, have you pulled the owners together to get financing for a single development?
The city is not responsible for putting together financing packages for developers. Going back to the focus group, we did try to bring all 5 owners together for a focus group meeting. Not all attended. So again, that's a private sector function. Obviously, we'd like to help people, but we are not going to be underwriting this development.
And then, sorry, some more questions are coming in. Who should we speak to if we wanted to open an entertaining business, something like Dave and Buster's?
As it relates to that, that's a current community planning. So you would have to talk to the current owners and leasers of the mall. The master plan doesn't involve to that micro level of detail.
All right, I think we can move on to testimony and then come back if there are further questions at the end.
Great. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Kirk Eby. Again, he's going to show you a video. And remember, folks, you have 3 minutes. And what we would ask is if you could begin your testimony with your name, the neighborhood you come from, or the organization you represent. And again, this is being recorded for use by the Planning Commission and the council. So go ahead, Kirk. There's no sound on that, Kirk.
Okay, I'm going to attempt to get the sound to go. I think there was another setting or something I needed to do. Oops, it just disappeared on me. Okay, let's try this again. Sorry about that.
Good evening. If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
Okay, so we have some raised hands. Actually, there's only one now. There were a few earlier. Raleigh Smith has raised his hand, and I'm going to allow him to talk, and he can now unmute himself and begin talking.
Thank you. Am I on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. This is Raleigh Smith. I'm with the Gaithersburg Beloved Community Initiative, and we're housed at Asbury, but we are a collaboration of many organizations that are trying to make a beloved community out of the greater Gaithersburg area. Our purpose of we have a committee, we've developed a committee, and we do have a testimony, which I have already submitted. So you will have that in hand and make it part of the record. I think the main thing I want to say, just in summary of that, is that we know that the master plan, I think, contains a lot of what we want. We like the idea of obviously a mixed use, mixed income, very diverse project that really connects with the rest of the community. The connectivity part is excellent. I think the main thing we want to emphasize, and I'll do it in a series of words. One is jobs, and for the people that are here. So in the housing that would affect, but also the type of jobs that will be presented in the actual development that it really will help the existing people who live here and are right around the development right now. The youth is a big deal for us at GBCI, and we will be asking how this development, both in process and in substance, benefits the youths. Inclusiveness, very important to us, the mixed income aspect of things, that it's safe. This was a problem with the old model, but the safety isn't just a matter of having law enforcement, but it's by design, that the very design brings in safety and the green aspect, which you have emphasized also. And the main thing is that we bring in the diversity of our community, and also that it happens quickly, that it's soon. We don't want to wait 20 years. Many of us won't last that long. But at any rate, we would like to see those aspects that are part of the design. I know others will be speaking to that as well. I think we also would like you to work with the owners and get a single plan so that we could have a really consolidated plan there. And anything we can do to help, we will. We will keep going, and we will be showing our plan with many, many others as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Raleigh.
Okay, next up is Joseph Feinberg. And I'm asking him to unmute.
Joseph, are you there? Joseph?
Okay, well, I think we'll come back to Mr. Feinberg. He's apparently not there. So next up will be Frank Lostumbo, and I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. And I'm now asking him to unmute as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Lostumbo, and I'm a member of the Gaithersburg Beloved Community Initiative, and I live in Asbury Methodist Village. Everyone should be pleased.
Timing, Kirk.
Pardon?
Sorry.
Did you?
Go ahead.
No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Everyone should be pleased that a good planning process has been initiated, and that is a great start for all of us. However, the plan and vision framework clearly state that the process is limited by the city's local boundaries. This lens limitation is significant. It excludes the voices and participation of the contiguous diverse neighborhoods abutting the property in Greater Gaithersburg and jurisdictionally located in Montgomery County District 2. In other words, it breaks the neighborhood integrity. It also excludes LFMAM property owners and developers and other business and civic entities from interacting in the planning process. Why is this important? Lake Forest Mall is not owned by the city, but by the 5 out-of-state owners and developers. Continuing their exclusion further complicates and diminishes any future actions at LFM. So how does the city move from an exclusionary and limited vision plan to actual development that is both inclusive and welcoming among the many important stakeholders? The city cannot do this alone. And COVID has taught us much about finding new ways and overcoming old systems to cooperate and support each other. The food distribution program, for example, is an excellent example of city-county community participation in an open and transparent way. It provides a model of inclusion and getting things done. Volunteers regularly drive across those jurisdictional lines to deliver food and essentials to support our neighbors. So it is not unreasonable for us to ask our elected representatives to also move out of their comfort zone and develop a similar participatory action now before the master plan is complete. With county and state cooperation, the city position would be strengthened with more robust redevelopment tools and provide increased leverage and broader vision in negotiations with the owners and developers. Working together in such a manner would lead to other common good opportunities for the development of the Lake Forest property, as well as gain possible new assets and insights from federal levels. The city does not have a redevelopment agency, and perhaps that is a pathway to initiate a city-county-state collaboration. GBCI recommends that the planning process be all-inclusive now. Listen to the entire community, residents, the civic associations, the business community, include Montgomery County residents, property owners and developers, and all the agencies involved in planning of the I-270 corridor. The redevelopment of Lake Forest property is an opportunity for the city to boldly reach out and initiate a redevelopment process that will make our greater Gaithersburg region economically robust and culturally inclusive. Thank you.
Okay, do we want to try Mr. Feinberg again? Mr. Joseph Feinberg, are you available to give testimony now?
They can't see us, it's just
Mr. Feinberg?
Okay, well, I guess we'll move on to the next person. Unless, Rob, did you want to make any comments on any of these?
No, we're not going to be commenting on comments. We're just receiving
Okay,
testimony.
just wanted to double check before we move on. So the next person to testify will be Monica Johnson, and I'm going to ask her to unmute.
Hi, this is Monica Johnson.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So it's I'm glad, I'm really happy that you guys are doing this. So I really do appreciate this. I was just wondering, I put it on the chat, but I just wanted to voice it. I was wondering, are you guys offering any incentives green wise for the environment, like green roofs, permeable surfaces, things to that nature, possibilities for gardens, like for a vegetable garden or anything to that nature for the residents there, especially if it's not going to be single homes, they're going to have small backyards or any backyards for that fact. And as well as, have you guys considered how are you going to connect when it comes to transportation, that area to the rest of Gaithersburg? You know, I live in East Deer Park neighborhood, and I have a difficult time riding my bike over to the real Cron area, which is the Cron area is a new area. It's not very easy to walk or take a bike ride over there, even though I'm within distance because of the way the 370 ICC area is done. So I was wondering, how is it going to be connected transportation wise to people who are not going to be driving, to people who are going to be either bicycling or want to walk from different parts of Gaithersburg to this Lake Forest area. And that was it. Thank you.
Kirk, if you could give me 1 second while I set up, we wouldn't answer, we wouldn't be responding. I did note Ms. Johnson's questions in the chat. So just real fast, just to make you aware, things like the sustainability issue, green roofs, things like that. We do have a green building ordinance, so any development that's going to come in is going to have to do stuff. And we do have our environment and sustainability master plan element that makes lots of recommendations for developments in general, Monica. So that's why we really didn't discuss it in depth here, but it is covered under other policy documents and codes in the city. So you will see things. And as to the connections, one of our recommendations under the transportation section is to look at improving stuff. And we do make recommendations such as changing the profile of Odenhall and Russell Avenue to bring in bike ped facilities. We do support, through our transportation element, which is a separate document, things like the Maryland 355 BRT, enhanced bicycle pedestrian facilities along Frederick Avenue. And we even have a recommendation in this plan about viewing and looking at ways we can improve connectivity into Old Town. So your points, maybe not to the level of detail you would hope, but it was definitely discussed, and we tried to make sure that it's on people's radars.
Okay, our next participant to testify is Oscar Alvarenga, and I'm going to ask him to unmute.
Hello, thank you. This is Oscar Alvarenga. I am a city resident over at West Deer Park. PCI, the community initiative, and just wanted to echo some.
Oscar, I think we're losing you. Kirk, can we reset the timer? I don't want to deny him time when he's having
Some technical issues, yes.
Concerns and really thoughts. Can you hear me? Let me move. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Oscar.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me know if you can't hear me. So I am a member, I do live at Westier Park, and a member of GBCI. And I wanted to echo some of our board members' thoughts and also remind and try to paint a picture that what we are planning to do, that while it is a long time from now, maybe before anything gets done, that we want to make sure that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, that history will show that we really thought through and that we really considered the community and the people that have been supporting the city of Gaithersburg over and over many years. I remember going to Lake Forest Mall as a child over 30 years ago and enjoying my time there. I have enjoyed taking my children there, and I would enjoy my kids one day to enjoy the area. While it might not be a mall, I want to make sure that my kids can afford to live there, that family members don't have to move outside of the city, outside of the area in order to afford and be able to create jobs that affect those that are in our area. We know that some areas want to attract more folks, and that is not a discouragement to what we're doing here, but we have a lot of great folks in this area that we want to keep and don't want to make it difficult for them to work or live and play. So I just want to make sure that as I know the city cannot dictate exactly what's gonna go, but we also know that the city isn't gonna allow developers to just come in and do what they want. So there is a level of partnership and of respect there. There are many schools that I have spoken to that would love to be part in this project. So we just ask for the city to really work with the developers whenever that comes to play, to give voice to those that are going to be here, living here, spending their money here, thinking of retiring here. So we just want to make sure that we are part of the program and not just on the side watching things happen. So again, thank you for your time. And we do hope to continue this conversation and to allow the community to be part of that conversation so that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, folks like myself can say, we were part of that. We were part of that change and we're happy of it, and not to say somebody got over us. So thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Oscar. Anybody else, Kirk?
I'm going to go ahead and ask Mr. Joseph Feinberg again to unmute if they want to testify. This will be the last try, I think. So, Mr. Feinberg. Okay, well, I guess we will move on to our next speaker, who is Ben Wickner. And again, I apologize if I pronounced that name incorrectly. And I'm going to ask that Mr. Wickner to unmute.
And Kirk, if you could reset the timer.
Yes.
Hey, good afternoon. I assume you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you for allowing this opportunity to be able to contribute, to add our voice to this very significant discussion. Certainly appreciate the really remarkable and diligent work that has gone in. I mean, this is an incredible project, but that just speaks to the significance of what we're discussing here, what you are participating in as city officials here. I want to also thank the other voices. And really what I'm going to say is echoing so much of what has already been said, but Frank, Raleigh, Oscar, Monica, Appreciate you guys so much, and what you do, and how you're contributing to this. I also contribute to GBCI. Myself, I lead cross community. We have space at Lake Forest Mall, so we are very invested in the future, not only of Lake Forest, but to the whole community and the neighbors that surround that area. And to that point, I simply want to say here that this must be a collaborative, collective effort. I hope you're hearing that from other voices. And the reason is simply because of the profound community impact that these plans are going to have. So we are very, very interested in this project. We're watching, we're listening, we want to contribute. We're working with many groups and leaders and activists in the community because the opportunity is so profound. There's a huge opportunity for an impact that this is going to have in the decisions that are made. And so we want to participate, as we know that the transformation of Lake Forest Mall into its future is going to have profound consequences, to what Oscar said, not only for us, but for generations to come. And so that opportunity is something that we're very, very invested in. And so, yeah, that is the main thing that I want to share today, is to thank you, and as well as then to look for more opportunities for that collaborative, collective effort, so that this is really going to serve the community, including Montgomery Village, not just Gaithersburg, but also the other neighbors surrounding that area, and to make this really what it can and should be. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Ben. I'm going to take a quick minute because I noticed you submitted a question into the chat. And Ben's question was, what is the significance of Lake Forest Mall being a designated economic opportunity zone? Not only is it an opportunity zone, it's also an enterprise zone. So what that's going to allow is here, and why we think, development may not take 20 years and why it could occur sooner. Any development here is going to be exempt from impact taxes. So, that is a big thing in and of itself, which is incredible overhead cost here in Montgomery County. Further, as the federal government continues to flesh out the roles of the opportunity zone, there's going to be both federal and local, state tax credits that come with this. So the designations of opportunity zone and enterprise zone, really in and of themselves, if you develop a good plan, that's going to incentivize redevelopment, because these two designation policies won't be in play forever. So that's why at times staff is not as concerned about it taking 20 years, because already there is tons of cost savings just with these designations to move quicker rather than later. So Kirk, go ahead if you got the next caller.
I believe that was the last person that was going to give testimony. I did see there were a few more questions in there. I don't know, Rob, if you can see those questions to see if you wanted to answer any of the other questions that came in.
So let's go through.
There was more. Go ahead.
So we have, how do we get in contact with the 5 owners? What I would suggest is potentially contact our Office of Economic Development. They may be able to put you in contact. I don't have direct point people for all 5 owners. We talked about the economic. Raleigh has reached out. Would you be amenable to having youth participate through their schools in the planning process? In fact, we did a focus group taken with students from the nearby middle and high schools. So yes, we'd like to do that. Once we get into an actual development application, everybody, regardless of age, ethnicity, nationality, always has the ability to participate in the public process. Would you be willing to push developers to link their plan to a goal of upwardly mobile jobs and work development? That's a difficult one. Obviously, that's the aspirational goal of the master plan. That's why we think of diversity in job sectors in and of itself creates that. But again, we sort of have to sort of putting the cart before the horse. We have to see what development comes in. Another question, why no reference to the REA? The REA is a reciprocal easement agreement. So for those who know that, that's an agreement that the city's not a party to, that is amongst the 5 property owners. We don't reference it because it doesn't, we're not a party to it. We don't enforce it and we don't participate in it. And it obviously, the sort of assumption is in order for redevelopment to occur, they'll resolve their issues related to the REA. If they don't, redevelopment won't occur. Again, the master plan, just tries to set the stage to make it worthwhile to resolve issues like this. It does not, require redevelopment. We had answered the green building stuff from Monica. Any other questions, folks? Any other testimony? We still have time. We wanted to make sure we left enough time for everyone. Going once. Kirk, are there any other raised hands, my friend?
Not at this time.
Well, again, we'll give it another couple of minutes. If you're still formulating something, I want to remind everyone, go to the project page, city's website, projects in the city, Lake Forest Master Plan. A lot of the stuff we talked about, is there. Hopefully tomorrow or Thursday, you'll actually see this recording posted within the record, so you'll be able to re-review this. Remember, any further testimony, as you begin to digest more stuff, May 21st is the linchpin date. Use that Lake Forest MP at gaithersburgmd.gov to send us any comments you have. And stuff received by the 21st will be included in the council, the public hearing packet. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. Another chat just came in. Mr. Winfield wrote in, what incentivizes the owners to proceed? That is a individual decision made by each owner. What makes one person take the leap to redevelop and another not, we really can't speak to. What this master plan's tried to do without being overly prescriptive is allow far more opportunities that are currently allowed for a traditional suburban style mall, which basically nationwide, isn't the most successful of models anymore. So between the opportunity zone designation, the enterprise zone designation, recommending a variety of uses, hopefully that will incentivize one or more parties to come together or separately to begin redeveloping the mall.
Rob, did you want to put up did you want to share your screen and put up that last page of the presentation so that in case people wanted to write
Yeah,
down
if there's not going to be any more testimony
Right.
or any more comments, I'll go ahead one more time. And again, folks, there's the web address, gaithersburgmd.gov/government/project in the city, Lake Forest Mall Master Plan, comments and questions, Lake Forest MP, all one word at gaithersburgmd.gov. And again, I'll belabor the point and beat that proverbial dead horse as we're heading into Preakness. May 21st, guaranteed to be in the packet. And the goal of that public hearing, once again, is really staff at that point presents all the comments received over these 60 days. So again, we'll try it one more time. Anybody else have anything else? Otherwise, we'll let you out an hour early out of class. Laura, do you see any more comments coming in, or Kirk, any more raised hands?
I'm not
Nope.
seeing anything.
And no
Alrighty,
raised hands.
Again, thank you all for taking the time to participate in this. This is very important especially in this era where we're still mainly remote working and social distancing. Efforts like this really do help the council and the planning commission. Your voices do matter. Always remember that in every effort going forward. And, pardon me. And again, thank you for taking the time. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. As I mentioned, by Thursday, hopefully if you want, you can go back and rewatch this through the project page. Again, thank you, everyone.